want to talk about is what's called a frequency polygon. A frequency polygon is basically the same idea as a frequency histogram, except for the polygon, instead of meaning bars like the histogram does, the polygon means basically that we're making a shape. So we're going to play connect the dots. So we're going to make dots and connect them. So the polygon here is where you make points. Again, you're still going to be using class marks along the bottom, just like in our histogram. So you'll have your class marks, or midpoints, on the bottom. You'll have your frequencies along your side, and then you'll make points, and for each midpoint, you'll have your frequency, and you'll make points, and you'll play connect the dots. However, at the value before and after our first and last class, you're going to have to bring it back down to 0 at the bottom. So you should start and stop at 0. So end at 0, and we have to start at 0. And this is before and after your classes. This will be before your classes, and this will be after your classes. So that's kind of the idea of what's going on here. So we've got a polygon, which is a shape that's made out of plain connect the dots, but it's really no different than what we were doing with the histogram. It's the same exact idea, just a line graph instead. So my thought is to do an example of a frequency polygon, but let's use the exact same data that we did for the frequency histogram, so that we can see how similar it is. So let's start off by talking about the fact that we still need to find our class marks. And we don't need to redo this because it's the same data. We found the first one last time by hand, and it was, 114.5. And then we used our class width, which said that to get from one class to another, you add 10, which gave us the rest of the class marks, which came up with 124.5, and the 134.5, and the 144.5, and the 154.5, the 164.5, the 174.5, the 184.5, and lastly the 194.5. Next, we put all the frequencies along the y-axis. That's still going to be the same here. So we'll put our frequencies along the y-axis, and we did units of 2. So we did 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. And then we put our class marks along the bottom. No different. So we can do the same thing. We'll take our class marks that we were just talking about, that same ones that we found last time, and we'll put them right along the base. So let's go ahead and do that. We will go ahead and just drop those. Same as before. And let's see. The difference is going to be that this time we're going to be doing points. So at the 114.5, the first class mark, we'll be doing a frequency of 2, but we're just going to put a point there. And for 124.5, we also had a frequency of 2, we'll put a point there. For 134.5, we had a frequency of 5, so we'll put a point at 5. And the next one was a frequency of 9, so we'll put a point there. Next one is 13, so we're right here right now. Next one is 13. And the next one is 8 after that. Then 6. Then 2. And last one is 2, so I must have missed and kind of jumbled this up a little bit. Missed a line. There we go. So now we'll play connect the dots here to make our polygon instead of a histogram. And then remember, before and after we've got to go back to 0. So before at the very beginning we'll go back to 0, and one after we'll go back to 0, and we'll bring it back down. Oops. Let's see. The last two here, 8, 6, and the last two were at 2. So hold on. That must have not popped up right. So they were supposed to be at 2. And again, at the end, we will bring it back down to 0. But there's our polygon. It's a funny looking shape, but those are your important key parts of making a polygon. It's very similar to a histogram, except for instead of bars touching, we have to be sure that the beginning and the end starts at 0, and the end ends at 0. In this next little group, we're going to look at what's called a stem and leaf display. And basically on one side, you have your first part of your numbers, and on the second part, you have your second part of your data value numbers. The first part is called your stem, and those first numbers are what are called your stem, and the second number are what comes after your stems, your leaves. And most textbooks don't do what this example did, which is they put them in order. Some will actually use commas on a test. Either way, if it gets marked wrong, I will give you back your points. I think they should be put in order though, and commas are up to you. So the leaves, so there's a leaf of 9, 7, 8, 1, 9, 2, that kind of thing. And what the idea of this is there's a key up here which tells you how to translate the stems and leaves. So a 5 on one side and a 6 on the other side means you've got the number 56. So if you look at this stem and